Well, thank you again for joining us in our virtual Bible study here on Wednesday night. We appreciate your participation in our virtual studies. We are always encouraged that you would choose us to study the Bible with on Wednesday night, given the plethora of other places you could go to study the Bible. Thank you so very much. For the last several weeks, we've been looking at this notion that I've entitled Devein Intersections. We have defined an intersection as a place where things just converge. They come and of course they meet together at a certain place. When you reach an intersection while driving, cars coming from several different directions converge at that particular traffic signal, at that particular road sign, and things just kind of intersect. They come together. From that metaphor, we try to help you to understand a biblical principle where divine encounter, divine intentions, divine purpose occurs at the metaphor that I've used here the last several weeks, an earthly intersection. I've suggested to you that often we discover divine intersections when we seek God in the midst of our normal, non-eventful, everyday situations in life. I've tried to illustrate this in the life of Moses from Exodus chapter 3. The last week or so, I've given you another biblical illustration where in the life of a man by the name of Nehemiah, we encounter God coming together at a certain point in time in order to get his intentions done. And he's going to use this character by the name of Nehemiah. My admonition to you has been simply to be on the alert, to be on the watch, to be conscious, and watch this, in everyday life situation where God simply brings together scenarios, plans, and purposes and intentions for your life. And they occur. And let me challenge you, just keep your eyes open, keep your ears open to how God is trying to work in simply everyday situations to get your attention in order to get his purposes done. So as you conduct your normal routine on a daily basis, God sets up situations and intersections for you to enter. I've said to you that he prepares you for the encounter, and he prepares others to encounter you at certain stations and points and situations in your life. Let me illustrate this again from the book of Nehemiah. I want to illustrate it two ways tonight, one from Nehemiah and the other from the book of Acts, chapter 8. But at Nehemiah chapter 1, verse 11, we have this statement. Now I was the king's cupbearer. As you're reading Nehemiah chapter 1, when you read verse 11, you'll have a tendency just going over in chapter 2 and just start pick up the reading. Let me ask that you slow your roll there, because this passage is so pregnant with divine intention and divine purpose. Earlier in Nehemiah, he has received word from Hanani, one of his brothers, who had gone to Jerusalem, had returned with a troubling report, and that is that the walls are broken down. The city is in disarray. It is literally a shame and an embarrassment and an insult to the name and the character of God. God's city, Jerusalem, the city of peace, has experienced war many years ago, and it is still in a situation of disrepair because the walls are broken down. That would suggest that security and protection for the people who live behind those walls is compromised because the walls are broken down, if you will. It's the hood. It is because there is a lack of protection and a lack of security that's going to affect the economy. Come on now, you and I both know how that we are reticent, we are reluctant, even as we drive here in Atlanta, to drive into a service station or a place of business, and you see a whole lot of loitering, a whole lot of people hanging around who's not doing business with that establishment. It could be a restaurant. It could be, I want to call in the name of any businesses because I don't want to hurt any businesses, but that you see at certain businesses where people are just standing around, and a whole lot of loitering is going on. They are not getting what that business has to offer, and this is not in every situation, but in too many situations, people are standing around, oftentimes either for handouts or to hurt. You coming in with money in your pocket, and they are needing, and in many cases the need is legitimate, and you want to do business there, and it's convenient to do business there, but because of a lack of protection and security, you choose to drive miles out of the way because of a lack of what you perceive as protection and security. How many service stations have you gotten out to put gas in your car or get some service done to your car, and you got to look around the whole time you're pumping your gas, looking around, and you don't see any security there? Well, over time, that business is going to be affected because customers sense a lack of protection and security. Now, this is not to judge needy people out there, because there are plenty of needy people out there. That's not my point. My point is that here in Jerusalem, because the walls are broken down, now security and protection is compromised, and the economy is going to be affected. Nehemiah guessed his word. But look where Nehemiah is, and look as to who he is. He's 900 miles away. And we're going to see in a second here, in Susan, the citadel, which is the capital of the headquarters of the Persian Empire. But at verse 11 here, it simply says that now I was the king's cupbearer. So Nehemiah has a trusted, important, significant governmental job and position. Doc, where'd you get all that from? It says he was the king's cupbearer. In other words, he has proximity and presence. Watch this. With the king of Persia, since they're in Persia at this point in time. Persia is the nation that conquered Babylon. Babylon was the nation that conquered his hometown of Jerusalem, taking his parents and grandparents into captivity for more than 70 years. While in captivity, that is, Babylonian captivity, the Persians is going to defeat the Babylonians. And now that has occurred, the Persian king has told the Jews who have been in captivity for 70 years or more that you are now free to go back to Jerusalem. That's why Nehemiah is receiving this report. Now, while he's free to go back, he chooses to stay. Hey, don't hate on the brother. He has a high governmental, trusted, protected position. He's cupbearer to the king. The king drinks no beverage. The king eats no food. The king has no appointment unless you deal with Nehemiah. I mean, he has access to the most powerful man in that present world. And yet, his hometown, his neighborhood, his hood is suffering great loss. Now, let me help you to understand and appreciate the role of a cupbearer. According to ancient protocol in Persia, the cupbearer was a position of trust. It was a position of protection. Because people were always trying to assassinate the king. Just like people are always trying to assassinate the present president of the United States, President Biden. So we have to put security, great security, around the leader of the free world. Whether you agree with his policies or not becomes insignificant. As a nation, he is the most powerful person on the planet, being president of the United States of America. We do this for all of our presidents. You remember 2 presidents ago, past Mr. Trump, and then you had Mr. Obama. The budget for the Secret Service escalated because now you have the first African American to become president of the United States. So not only did assassins from afar heighten up their attempts and their attacks, but right here in the United States of America, I mean, it's a matter of public record that gun sales went through the roof when Mr. Obama became president. There was so much fear, so much anxiety in the country among, watch this, American citizens. I mean, it was absolutely astronomical, the attempts at assassinations at Mr. Obama. We've had a few presidents in the United States where there were attempted assassinations. Remember with former President Ford, and then former President Reagan, and other attempts. And of course, the most famous one of all is going to be President Lincoln. And there were other presidents who were either assassinated or attempt assassinations. In Persia and in the ancient world, one of the best ways to attempt an assassination was through the food that the king ate. There were plots to getting good with the cupbearer because the cupbearer was the one feeding food to the king. This is Nehemiah's job. Homeboy is a baller. Homeboy is a shot caller. So he has a position of trust. And since there had been other attempts at assassinating Persian kings, they established this position called the cupbearer, where, pardon me, please, where he would drink the beverage first. He would eat the food first. You couldn't just walk in and see the king. You had to have an appointment. And so people were always trying to bribe Nehemiah. Therefore, according to ancient protocol, the cupbearer had to meet certain qualifications. Number one, he had to be cultured. He had to be knowledgeable when it came to the law of the laws of Persia. This is not just some butler from the bakery out of the kitchen. This had to be a man of culture, a man who knew Persian law. He had to be conversant in politics. He needed to know the game because people are always trying to play games with the kings. He had to be a person of high integrity. You can understand why. He had to be loyal. You couldn't be disloyal to the president. In other words, you had to vote for it. And I'm kidding right through here. But what I am saying is, it is a position that demanded high integrity, loyalty, and watch this, confidentiality. You couldn't be a blabbermouth and be the cupbearer. You could, because watch this, you were the ones who set the king's agenda. You were the one who made the final decision as to who the king was going to see on this day. But then watch this protocol. He had to be handsome. Now, it's interesting. King didn't want ugly people in his presence. If you're ugly, do not apply. Now, I'm not making this up, folks. This is according to ancient protocol. And one of the reasons why is because kings allowed no sadness in their presence. You could not come into the king's presence with a sad disposition. It would send the wrong message. If you came in with a sad disposition, if you came in and you had, you were all cringing and stuff, first thing the king is going to think is, well, wait a minute, what did you eat? Because what you ate is what I ate. Teach Bible, Dr. Barclay. But if you drink that water and it's making you act like that, and I drank the water, oh, Persia, we got a problem. So you had to be handsome. King just did not tolerate sad-looking people or non-personable people in his presence. And then lastly, according to ancient protocol, the cupbearer had to be a strategic planner. Oh, my friends, you're going to see how critical this is when I read the story for you in just a second. He had to be a strategic planner. He had to be an organized person. Remember, he sets the king's calendar. He organizes the king's trips. He organizes the king's appointments. He decides who's going to come in and see the king. He decides when Air Force One is going to take off. He decides who's going to fly on the. Now I know they didn't have Air Force One. They had Persian Force One. He decided during the parade who was going to be in what order, who's going to be closest to the president at dinner parties, at receptions. It was Nehemiah who screened the guest list, who would sit at the head table, who would sit to the left, to the right, to in front, behind. All of this responsibility belonged to Nehemiah. Now, the best way to define a cupbearer's role is to associate it with the position of chief of staff to the president of the United States. The president chief of staff to President Biden is an attorney by the name of Ron Klain. Whenever the presidents are in meetings with dignitaries, either foreign or domestic, the one that's going to be closest to his side is going to be his chief of staff. He's the one who organizes the staff. He's the one who decides who's going to see the president on this particular day. So it is an awesome responsibility. Well, this is what Nehemiah did. Now, with all of that background in our view, let's look at this strategic thing that was planned by God and Nehemiah in order to get Nehemiah down to Jerusalem to help to rebuild the broken down walls. In fact, when you read the rest of the book of Nehemiah, Nehemiah is going to end up being the governor in Jerusalem and Judea area. And in order to become governor, watch this, you had to have political savvy. You had to be a strategic thinker, a strategic planner. You're going to have to accumulate and assimilate not only the physical resources, but the human resources in order to get the walls rebuilt. And he's going to have them rebuilt in record time. In fact, as you read the book, you're going to see and discover that he's able to do in 52 days what was not done in more than 100 years. Ooh, preach that thing, Dr. Barclay. He's able to get accomplished in 52 days. That's in Nehemiah chapter 6. He's able to get done in 52 days what was not accomplished in more than 100 years. And one of the reasons why is not only because of the strategic planning of Nehemiah, but the people, the Bible says in chapter 2 and 3, had a mind to work. I want you to watch this. Watch how things intersect. Watch how things converge in order to get that done. Well, Nehemiah 1:1, the Bible said the words of Nehemiah, the son of Hakaliah. And then watch this. Now it happened in the month of Chislev. Now, understand that according to the Hebrew calendar, as you compare it to our calendar, Chislev would fall somewhere into our November, December time frame. Now, what happened in the month of Chislev? Well, what happened is this. In the 28th year, Nehemiah says, as I was in Susa, the citadel, that Hanani, one of my brothers, came with certain men from Judah. And I asked them concerning the Jews who had escaped, who had survived the exile concerning Jerusalem. I've just given you all that information. I want you to watch this. And they said to me, the remnant there in the province who had survived the exile is in great trouble and great shame. The wall of Jerusalem is broken down. The gates are destroyed by fire. He said, as soon as I heard these words, I sat down and wept and mourned for days. Now, let's back it up. Didn't I tell you that the king allowed no sadness in his presence? Didn't I tell you that one of the protocols for being cupbearer is you couldn't be sad in the king's presence? Well, Nehemiah said, as soon as I heard these words, I sat down, I wept, and I mourned for days. And then he says, I continued fasting and praying before the God of heaven. You miss some shouting stuff right through that. My question would be, since you couldn't be sad in the king's presence, and he was weeping and he's crying for days, but come here, he wasn't doing it in the king's presence. How in the world could he keep it together? How in the world could these emotions not be revealed since he was, watch this, the text that he was mourning? That's what you do when somebody dies. This is not just surface tears. This is stuff, this is news that has gone to his very core. And yet he's able to keep it together. He says, I fasted, oh my goodness, and I prayed. I fasted, and I prayed. I fasted. In other words, I did all I could do from an earthly vantage point, even to the point of denying my flesh some stuff. But then I combined it with prayer. Prayer is when you ask eternity to step into time. Prayer is when you ask God to step into history. Prayer is when you you ask the spiritual to step into the physical. He said, I fasted and I prayed before the God of heaven. Now, let me back this up for you. All of this will occur in November, December, in the month of Chislev. He starts fasting. He starts praying. And then watch this. In Nehemiah 2 and verse number 1, oh my goodness, let's bring it together. He says, in the month of Nisan, that would be our April. He hears the news in November, December, Chislev. But it's in the month of Nisan. That's next April. Okay, let me try it again. He gets the news in Chislev, November, December. When you see this program, it's going to be November 30th. And so from November to April, watch this. He's still fasting. He's still praying. He's still keeping it together. That's almost 5 months. But something happens. Ooh, something's about to happen in April. The text says, in the 20th year of King Artaxerxes, when wine was before him, he said, I took up the wine and gave it to the king. Now I had not been sad in his presence. Ooh, did you see what's going on here? He says, for the last 5 months, I've been giving him wine. I've been feeding him food. I've been setting his agenda, but I was able to keep it together. I was able to hide my hurt. I was able to conceal my concerns. But on this day in April, he said, I thought I had it together. I thought I was cool in the game. He said, but the king picked up on something. Teach the Bible, Dr. Barclay. And the king said to me, why is your face sad? Seeing you are not sick. He said, well, hey, Nee, what's up? Why's your face sad? Come here. It was this sad face that he was able to hold together for 5 months. Come here. For 5 months, he's able to hold it together. But on this day in April, King picked up on something. He says, why is your face sad? Seeing you are not sick. He said, this is nothing but sadness of the heart. Then Nehemiah said, I got scared. Not only am I about to lose my job, I'm about to lose my life. I said to the king, let the king live forever. The king, nothing wrong with what I served you. Nothing wrong with what I ate. King, everything is all right through there. He said, but king, if you see something on my face, it's because I've been hiding something in my heart. He said, my father's graves, the place where my daddy and my mama and my people lived, gates have been destroyed by fire. Now, watch the conversion. Watch the intersection. Watch how things will now come together. As the graphic shows, Nehemiah did 3 things daily for almost 5 months until God provided him a divine intersection. And the divine intersection was associated, watch this, with a human emotion, with a sad countenance before the king. Nehemiah fasted, he prayed, he planned, and he went to work every day doing what he would normally do until God provided, watch this, the perfect storm, if you will, the perfect scenario. The New Testament would call this a kairos moment. Don't have time to explain all of that. My time buzzer has already gone off. You've already heard it. But I want you to watch this. On this day in April, Nehemiah went to work, serving wine to the king, and the providential hand of God turned the king's heart. Well, how you know that was the case, Brother Barclay? Proverbs 21:1 says that God turns the king's heart however he desires. Watch this. On this day in April, watch what came together. Nehemiah shows up to work. Couldn't fake it any longer. Couldn't hide it any longer. King picks up on something. Well, the king is going to pick up on something because watch this. Nehemiah wakes him up every morning. He feeds him breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day. He supervises his wardrobe. He supervises his welfare, his health, his hygiene. Nehemiah is in the king's presence every day, almost all day. He knows the king, but the king knows him. And remember, I said that he's a strategic planner. Isn't it amazing? For 5 months, he does what he does as a matter of routine, but on this day, he couldn't hide it. Not that he was not trying to, but he couldn't hide it. King picks up on it. But look at Nehemiah 2 in verse 6. He said, and the king said to me, and the text says, and the queen sitting beside it. Oh, you read it too fast. On this day, when he serves him wine and food, on this day of all days, something is revealed in Nehemiah's countenance that the king picks upon. But you may have missed this parenthetical statement. And the king said, with the queen sitting beside it, why in the world do you throw in and the queen sitting beside it? Ooh, 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 ooh. If you only knew who the queen was. Now, since you're sitting here looking at the graphic on my screen, you know by now who the queen is. You've read it. Isn't it interesting? For 5 months, he shows up, goes to work every day, doing daily stuff, hiding the hurt in his heart. But on this day, King picks up on the sadness in his counsel. And God uses that to create a divine coming together of purpose to get Nehemiah in a position to ask the king a favor. And that favor is, King, I need a leave of absence to go back to Jerusalem to help my people out. But God never allowed that to happen until the queen was sitting beside the king's side on that particular day. And who is this queen? Well, I think I've said to you in previous weeks that when you read the book of Nehemiah, you need to read the book of Ezra and you need to read the book of Esther in conjunction with reading Nehemiah. All three books occur in the same historical time frame. Notice that the king name is Artaxerxes. We just read that a moment ago at Nehemiah 2:1. Artaxerxes is the son of Ahasuerus. Brother, you don't know all these words at me. Well, I'm just reading from the Bible here. Ahasuerus is the father of the present king of Persia, whose name is Artaxerxes. The wife of Ahasuerus is Esther. Esther is the stepmother of the present king of Persia. And when you go back, oh my goodness, I feel some shout coming on here. And when you go back and you read the book of Esther, God had previously used Esther to save the Jewish people from extinction when they were on the verge of being wiped out. And you'll remember Mordecai's instruction to Esther at Esther 4 and verse 16. He says, and I transliterate, he says to her, who knows that thou hast come to the kingdom for such a time as this. She used her influence and her godly position that God had placed her in to be a conduit to save her people from extinction. And now she's still around. Ahasuerus is off the scene, but Esther is still on the scene, and she is stepmother to King Artaxerxes. Ooh, isn't God an awesome God? Can't God bring some stuff together? Can't God put the pieces of the puzzle together the right? Oh, what a mighty God we serve. And do you not see this divine intersection here with after 5 months of fasting and praying, after 5 months of being heartsick and hiding it and covering it up, but still going to work every day, God brought together the king's heart and Nehemiah's sadness. King's heart has been opened by God. And remember now, this is a Persian king. This king doesn't believe in God. But God turns the heart, Proverbs 21:1, as God turns the rivers of waters. I'm telling you, God can make a Red Sea dry land. God can make a Jordan River at flood time say stop and let his people. If God can turn rivers and if God can turn waters, he can turn the hearts of kings. And not only kings and presidents, he can turn your husband's heart. He can turn your wife's heart. He can turn your children's heart. Could it be that we don't spend enough time fasting and praying and being on alert to when God opens up doors of opportunities and encounters for his intentional purposes to be done? Come on, join us again next Wednesday night as we'll continue this same trend of thought. And until then, may the Lord of the harvest bless you, and may he bless you real good.